Hello and welcome to part 2 in this series of taking a comp from Absolute Photoshop to Dreamweaver to Joomla. In this comp we're going to start talking a lot about transparency layers, PNGs, and some funny other voodoo stuff. So strap on your hats and let's get this thing rocking. Let's start out in Photoshop. And the first thing we want to notice is at this point we've already set up the slices, we've already got the background layers. This is where we've gotten to before. In Dreamweaver, we've got our base background, we've got our basic layer, that's going to be our basic background, and our footer. So the ground is pretty much laid. So in Photoshop, we're going to look at it and go, okay, we kind of have to start dissecting and going, well, what layers are we going to take out, what are we going to leave in as transparencies, and how do we start comping everything together. Alright, so I'm going to start with something easy. We're going to start with the logo. It's a easy first base thing that we can do to kind of get everybody used to the idea of playing with transparency layers, and that's where we're going to go from here. Here we are. We're down to what we really need to start looking at for the header part. First thing that we want to do is say, okay, file, I want to do a save as, because I don't really want to mess up my slices that I used on the other thing. So I can always go, okay, I'm going to save as a slice 2. So it's a different file, I can play with this, and it's not really going to affect my other slice object in case I want to go back and play with my backgrounds in it. So now that we've removed the layers that we're not looking at, the first thing we want to do is select my slice tool. And I want to create a new slice for the logo. So you go on the extents of it, create the slice, always double click on it again and go, okay, we know we want to start at 200 where my other slice was. I like to keep all the dimensions like round numbers, so 420, height, we'll say 100, and let's just start it at 30 and see if that that looks right about right. Obviously that's messing up some of the other slice layers, but that's where we're going to get into this. This is going to be transparency. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing. Now on this, because these are basically the same element, I can take one slice of the graphic and use it twice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a slice here, go out to about right there, and double click on it again and go, and this is the same thing. You want to get in here and try to round out your numbers. 5, 4, width 360, height 45. Now that's a little bit much, so let's put it at height 35. And now I can go ahead and just nail this down to it. It's like right about there. It seems to have all the graphic. It will allow me plenty of room to put in some text, and I can duplicate this and use it for both. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. So then I want to get my slice select tool, and I want to go around and double click on all the things that are no longer going to be needed. Now I've got that other file saved, so I don't want to have things labeled the same thing in my name, so I'm going to say no image here, no image here. This, and we'll label that here in a second. This is going to be a large no image. This is going to be my RR dash logo. This, no image. This, no image. This is going to be my RR dash header. What should I call this? Header line. Why not? Okay. So now I've got, this is how it's going to be. Then the thing is, you got to go and you got to start deleting all the layers that are behind it. So I can just go ahead and probably get rid of all my backs. So now I've got my logo layer with transparency in the background, and I've got my line here. So we're going to go File, Save for Web. I'm just going to click on that, and I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to click on this. I'm sorry, not Control. I'm going to hold Shift and click on this. these two are highlighted. So I said, okay, I don't want to do it as a JPEG, I want to do it as a PNG 24. You can see how that adds the transparency back in the background. I'm going to press save. Computer, C, Thalo data, current projects, romance, web. I just put it in the web folder because it's automatically going to put it in the images folder for me. And I want to say not all slices, I want to say selected slices. And press save. It just created a logo file and one of these. So then we pop over into Dreamweaver, and we want to make sure that those images are here. Yes, they are. Logo line and header logo. So now that we're back into Dreamweaver, we're primarily going to be working on the header area. So we want to go into the header. I want to make sure there's nothing else in that. So in the header, we want to say, okay, a new div. Now, I'm going to create two divs, one on the right-hand side and one on the left-hand side as the object that's going to hold all my other divs. So I'm going to say, okay, new style. I'm going to make it a ID. It's going to be, I'm going to call it header left. Okay. Box, we know it's box 420, same as what that logo was. I'm going to float it left, give it 0 and 0 for now, press apply, OK, and OK. So now I have a nice little box that's going to be right here. Next, I want to do one for the right hand side. So we go after that div, create a new div, call it header ID, and we'll call it header right. Okay, box. Now I don't know what the width is, I can't remember, so I'm going to go to the background, press browse, and look and see, oh, my header line, oh, it's 360, so cancel. My box, I want to say it's 360. Now on this one I want to float it on the right hand side. I'm not going to set a height, so I'm just going to call it that. So apply, OK, and OK. So now I've got my left and my right hand side. Now, one thing that I am noticing is that I want to actually set the height of these boxes to be the same as the box in the background. It'll make it a little bit easier to visualize where elements are going. So I look down here on the bottom and I can actually see, oh, I can click on that, and then I look over here and go, oh, current, and I can see that my height is 410. So all I got to do is click on that div again, go over here, say edit that. I want it to be 410, apply, OK, and then we're going to click on this div here and set the height also at 410, apply, OK. Now again, I have content in here. It's just the spaceholder content that Dreamweaver puts in, so let's delete that and delete this. So now we have our left and our right. Okay, now we're going to highlight our header left div, go in there, and create our new div tag for our logo. New style, it's going to be an ID. We'll call it something crazy like, I don't know, logo holder. Cool. So we've got a logo holder. Okay. Now we know our box width is 420. Let's just say, let's figure out what our height needs to be. And we're going to put the height in at 100. Cancel. Box 100. Float it left, and we'll give it some top padding. Let's just say for now 100. We'll go back and fine tune that later, but for now that's okay. That's okay, and okay, and okay. Now the question is, why didn't you go ahead and put in the logo as the background of the div? The simple answer is we want the logo itself to be clickable, and you can't click a background of a div. So let's blank this out of here, and then we're going to put in a graphic. Put that in and boom. Okay. Alright, that looks good. Now we've set that too high at 100, and this is the cool thing about it, is all we have to do to change the position of that graphic now is click on the div layer that's holding it, change the padding. So change it to say 50, see what happens. That looks pretty good, but I think we can take a little more off of that. So let's change that to 35. That looks pretty much like what I want it. Okay, now it's time to put in those lines and whatnot on the right-hand side. Now we have something to think about first. First, we want to put in the lines, but it needs to be a little bit lower on the page. So one option is to do what we did on the logo and put in the first div and give it top padding, and that's a good option, except for we want to use that line twice. So I can either create one class that can be repeated and use it twice, or I can create a div that wouldn't, or I'm sorry, an ID that wouldn't be repeated, but I'd have to make two separate ones to account for the different padding on the top. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to go ahead and create just a blank holder div, if you will, to create that space on the top, and eventually something may end up going in that div, so it's good to have it just as a placeholder in case we want to put the phone number up there or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to say insert div, new CSS rule. This one is going to be an ID, and we're going to call it header right space. Okay, and the only thing I'm going to do here is get the width. Now I don't remember the width. There's a couple different ways we can choose that. We can figure out what the width is from this div, or I can kind of cheat again and I can just look at the graphic and go, oh yeah, it's 360. So cancel, box width 360, and I'm going to go ahead and set the height right now. I would imagine it's around 250, and that'll force everything down, float it left, and we'll go 0 and 0 for now. Okay, apply, okay, and put it in. So now we've got a box that's just going to open up this space and force anything below it down below here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the content out of that box. Click on the box, press the arrow key over, which puts me right in next to it. I'm going to say create another div. New rule. And now this one's going to be a class. So this is going to be my header right line. Say OK. On the background, I'm going to go ahead and choose that. It's this 360 by 35. Box width 360. Height 35. Float left. Apply and OK and OK. Now it's going to put some text in there. I'll just delete out the text. So we got my first line. That looks good, pretty much like I want it to be. Now I've got a couple different things I can do. I can just copy this because it is just a class. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Copy it, put a line, paste. So now it's going to duplicate. Now we had content that we wanted to go in the middle of it. So what I want to do is I want to say, alright, put in another div, new, and then I was going to call this an ID. We're only going to use it once. So I'm going to say it is my header right text. Okay. Okay. Box, we know it's 360. Float left, and our height, I could leave it blank, but right now I'm just going to go ahead and put in 50. Alright, we're going to say apply and OK and OK. So now I've got an area here that's got a text box in the middle. At this point in the comp, all I'm really trying to do is get my spacings, my whatnot right. I'll show you later how to go back in and adjust the details of each of the divs. Real quick, I'll kind of just show you this. We want to say, okay, I needed more space there, so obviously I want to do 75. And maybe my type in there I want to be white so I can see it at all times, and maybe the font size needs to be larger or whatnot. So just for now, I'm just going to say, oh, the font's going to be 20. Okay, apply, okay. So now I can see content right here, and it's good enough for now. Later I'm going to want to play with the padding and whatnot, but I'll get in there and I'll show you how to do all that. And then, of course, the last thing that we want to do is press File, Save All, and let's go ahead and just look at it and explore real quick. That's basically what we're looking at. And the top part has a selectable logo that we can apply a ref tag or a link tag to go back to the home page and whatnot. And then we've got selectable content here. But that's the basics of dealing with the transparency layers as it relates to the graphics. Later on we'll get in here and we'll shore up the text, we'll add in whatever else needs to be done, and finish up the header, but that's really later on in the details. So as always, I want to thank everybody for watching me do my thing, and hopefully it's insightful for someone out there, and if not, then at least it's somewhat entertaining and you won't wasted 20 minutes of your life or whatever. So thanks a lot, and next time we'll be dealing with the very interesting part of the middle ground. So I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.